Phase Hero is live. I am Brandon Davis, joined today by Jenna Anderson.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody is right. Happy Monday. We hope you're having a wonderful day. This is an awesome episode that we've been looking forward to since we found out it was happening just a few days ago. The Penguin star, Rhenzy Feliz, is going to join us. Jenna, I'm hyped for this because just last night we shared how much we love this show.
I'm so excited. And when we were live last night, everyone loved Victor. So I'm very excited to talk about the postmortem of everything.
Something I forgot to say on last night's show was I watched the finale a couple weeks ago, but then I watched it again last night. I watched it with my mom, and it takes a lot, I think, for my mom to get emotional watching something. When she watched that last scene with Victor Aguilar, spoiler alert, everybody, the show's out there and this interview is going to have him. When she watched Vic get killed by Oz, I saw some tears come down her face. So we're going to have to talk to Rhenzy about that and be like, hey, man, why'd you let that happen? But no, it's going to be fun, guys. If you want to chat with us, we have the live chat. We might get to some of your questions. We have a bunch we have to ask ourselves first, of course. And please continue to subscribe. We're on all major podcast platforms. The YouTube shows are doing really well. We really appreciate that. And we have Brad Winderbaum from Marvel TV joining us on Wednesday. But that's not a today thing. This today is a Penguin thing. And without further ado, please, comment section, give a warm welcome to Victor Aguilar himself, Rhenzy Feliz.
Hello. How we doing?
Rhenzy, welcome to Phase Hero, man.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
How's like day one, like life after Penguin? How you doing?
Oh man, a lot of RIPs. There's a lot of anger in my DMs. I think people are upset in general about his outcome. But a lot of love, a lot of support, a lot of love. I wasn't expecting the audience to sort of embrace the character this much, so it's been nice.
Yeah, I can imagine a lot of people are sharing their thoughts on it. What's the like craziest response you've gotten from a friend, family member, or like somebody, a fan online?
They're asking for Oz's address a lot, and I don't. That's not a real thing, that I could give out. So they want to know where they can find him. They want to have a conversation with him, ask him a couple questions. But no, I think people are they're feeling it. They're feeling the feelings right now.
Yeah.
So walk us through, what was it like to film that sequence? I can only imagine working with Colin over the course of this show and getting to that point. What was that experience like?
Yeah, there was like man, that day, we knew that day was coming. It was he would always ask me, like, not always, but like, let's say the week before, he goes, we got our scene in a week, like, you ready? And it's like something that I think we both kind of mutually circled on our calendars, like, it's gonna kind of be a big day. And then even like 2 days before, he goes, we got our scene in 2 days. I'm like, I know. He goes, it's gonna be brutal. I'm like, I know. And then the day before, he goes, we got our scene tomorrow. I'm like, no, I know, we got the scene tomorrow. And then finally, the day shows up, and I don't know, I think there's kind of like there was like this hush amongst the crew, and it was just this cold night on a riverbank in New York, and you kind of feel it. You kind of feel it in the air that it's kind of like, oh, this is kind of sad. I would go back behind, like, after we do a couple takes, sometimes you get a little break for them to set up, and then I'd go up into Video Village where they're kind of watching all the takes, and it was just tears back there, And so you kind of feel like you're onto something in terms of like finding the kind of emotional core of the scene and where it lives, and it's a brutal one. It's a brutal one.
It's hard to watch, man. God.
Yeah.
How many times do you have to film the sequence where Oz kills Vic?
It's a few. I would say in the range of like maybe 20-something times.
Wow.
We shoot
Was there like a specific note they had of like, because I remember there's something in your voice as Vic in that where you're like, please, Oz, and it just sounds like the innocence is being choked out of him too, like, which we saw throughout the whole show, and it felt like that moment was really like it. This is what caught. Like, was there a specific direction they gave you on how to perform a death scene?
Nothing specific. I think we found our way there through a couple rehearsals. It was actually Colin's idea on how to do the choke and stuff. I think they maybe had a different idea coming into it. And on the day, he kind of was like, hey, so I got this idea. Like, do you want to check it? I'm like, yeah, let's see what happens. And so he kind of puts his arm around and then kind of pulls me in. And it was perfect because I was kind of wondering, like, how am I not going to get a hand in his eye? How am I not going to, like, how do I genuinely not fight back? And the way he was holding me, I actually couldn't reach him. I couldn't reach my arms out to grab him to stop the act from happening. So there was some like we were talking about the actual like construction of it all, but when it came down to the actual depth of it and the shooting, that I think a lot of it just kind of lived and breathed on like or lived and breathed is a funny term. It was just it kind of just lived on instinct, trying to survive, trying to fight, trying to plead, trying to beg, that kind of thing, and it's pretty dark, pretty twisted stuff. But I think ultimately it's just kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah, I don't want to spend the whole show on Vic's death, but I do have one last question about it. What do you think was the last thing Vic was thinking when Oz decided to kill him?
Oh man, I think just if I'm being honest, I think there's not a lot that goes through the mind, but I think in those moments, I think if you in hindsight, it's like, what have I done? Who did I trust? This kind of betrayal of like, I think first it's confusion, first it's shock, then it's panic, then it's do anything you can, then it's why, and then it maybe can turn into, oh my God, I can't believe I trusted this guy, and this is it for me. And then you don't have much time, but I think maybe those kind of flash by.
So the internet is definitely trying to cope with the death. There have already been theories that he's playing dead, that he could have been revived through CPR. Do you think he's dead, or do you think that there's a chance that he could come back?
The possibilities are endless, but I think I don't know. The way I read it, I mean, we only have the script, right? The way I read it, it felt like that was his final breath. But crazier things have happened, and the writers are very creative. And if they wanted to find a way to make the story back, I guess they could try. It feels to me like it's a really great beginning, middle, and end to the character. So I kind of think it's the right way to go personally. But if I was approached with something, I'd be open to the idea of it. If something's really cool, something's really interesting, I guess I'd be open to it.
So I want to add, because we talked at New York Comic Con, and you said that you wanted to have some heart for Vic, in that moment beforehand, and he had it. Like, there was a lot of heart. Vic was the heart of the show, man. Let's be honest. But like Vic's relationship with Oz, I find to be really interesting, because Oz is so clearly just a bad guy, but there's no denying that he's done a lot for Crown Point, and so Vic looks at him like a father figure, like almost like a hero. The way Oz, like the narcissist that this guy is, wants to be looked at. Right. So, but that's how we're supposed to look at Batman. So I would love to hear you. Like, I don't know if these are things you even think about. Like, I maybe you just like you have your script, you do this, but when you dive into the character, you think about like this is a world where there is a lore of a guy in a cape and freaking bat ears. What do you think Vic think? Like, would he equate Penguin / Oz to like a figure like Batman, and because of his personal experiences with him?
Right. So yeah, in terms of like how does he think about Batman? Yeah, that wasn't something that I thought of a lot while shooting it, but it's something that I've been asked a few times afterwards. And I think for the most part, he admires someone like Batman. Someone who is standing up for what feels like a little guy. The Riddler, I think, is maybe the person who he hates the most in the world, would be the Riddler for what he did. Mm-hmm. And Batman's the one that brings him to justice. So I think there's immediately there's this maybe puts him on a pedestal, maybe idolizes him in a way. But I think as he falls deeper into Penguin's world, I think, maybe he grows less and less to liking Batman, because Batman will come in and screw some stuff up if to say it lightly, if he found out what Oz and Victor were doing. So there's definitely fear. There's even that moment in episode 6 where he he kind of looks up towards the sky, and I think a part of it is that, and I think a part of it is just in general fear of someone watching, someone looking, but there's always this omnipresent kind of thing going on of someone looking, someone being there, and so I think the thoughts have gone through his mind, but he's so dead set. There's so much going on in his life at that time. I think he's not really thinking about so much about the Batman. How would Batman feel about this, and how would Batman feel about that? I think he's kind of doing his thing.
Was there ever sorry, Jenna, I know I'm going way out of order for this is a question I forgot to put on our rundown, but we talked about it before the show. I was reading today that there was like a consideration of having Bruce and Vic possibly run into each other. Did that ever make it to script phase? Did you ever think like maybe Vic was going to meet Bruce?
It was never a conversation. So no, it never crossed my mind, even about, honestly, even just like the Batman character in general really wasn't something that we were thinking about considering up until the end, up until the final moment of episode 8. But it was never really a conversation that we had about him being in the show, or really like even people reminding me that, hey, remember that we're in this world. We were so kind of enraptured in what we were doing, what was happening with us, that it really focused and centered on that.
Yeah, makes sense.
So earlier in the season, Vic kills someone for the first time. Did you view that as the most pivotal moment in his journey, or do you think there's another point in his story where, for better or worse, he's really growing and changing as a person?
I think that's probably the most pivotal action he does. I think that there's probably more pivotal things that happen to him. One would be the death of his family. Just the week before that we pick up the show. On that fateful day where the Riddler does what he does. Another time would be when he decides not to get on that bus and go with Graciela and stays in Gotham with Oz. But I think the act that he does in killing and taking that guy's life in episode 6, I think that's like a moment where he starts to realize that he's already committed, but now he is committed to what this thing is and being in this world and being a part of this life. And I think it hurts him, and I think it's painful for him to go through that. But he's in, and I think he sees it like, well, this is the thing I chose. Got to get used to it, and I think it's hard for him. I think it's hard for him to get used to it.
Man, that life, that Gotham lifestyle. I'll tell you what, it'll get the best of you, and all of a sudden you're sitting there in the snow. We have a question. First of all, shout out to Jamie watching from her Loving the Time of Hydra account. Hello, Jamie. Maud Gower with a good question. Hi, Maudie. Was there ever a sense of Oscar/Emmy hype on set? Because it's undeniable what you guys did it's fucking amazing, Rhenzy. Like, you guys, like, the performances in this show are like, I mean, I watch a lot of movies and TV and I see some good stuff. I don't know. I thought this was just something else. This was like a whole other level. Did you guys kind of feel like you were creating something worthy of that while you're doing? I know you're not supposed to focus on it, but like, did you ever feel it and wonder and start to think like we might be doing something pretty damn special here?
I think there were maybe hopes, like the idea that we were making something cool enough that people would want to, put in that kind of category. I think that when you start thinking about that, you have to immediately stop thinking about that and try to refocus on the making of the thing instead of the reaction to the making of the thing, or to the thing that's been made. But definitely it's hard to, when I'm looking at some of Colin's scenes, I would stick around some days on set and just watch the rehearsals, just watch some more scenes. I would go, whenever I was getting ready, I would go watch Cristin do some of her scenes. And it's like, man, sometimes I look around, the stuff that I'm not in, that would be too, I think pat on the back. But I think the stuff that I'm not in, when I'm looking at it from afar, from an audience perspective, it's like, how many better performances are going to be this year than what Colin's doing, what Cristin's doing, what Didi's doing? Like, yes. I think they all deserve all the applause on the planet, and what our creative team's been able to do behind the scenes as well, like in the editing of it and the music of it, what Mick Giacchino's been able to do with this thing. I mean, it's a gorgeous piece of work that everybody's been able to come together and create, and I think you hope for it on set. Like, man, I hope people see how great this is. Like, the way I'm watching it, it looks great. I hope people see that too. But you never know. You never know the way it's going to turn out. I mean, I've been on sets where I think it's going awesome, and then you watch it and it's like, all right, well, that one missed. But definitely this one was like, in reading it, I just hoped that we were able to bring what was on page onto screen. And I was like, if we can even do a decent job, I think people are going to really resonate with the show.
So you mentioned Cristin. You share a couple of scenes with her. How intense was it when Sofia kind of takes over and she's getting ready to kind of have that performance? Because just as a viewer, it is unbelievable. Yeah,
she's great. I remember being blown away. I was shocked when we did the table read. We read the first 2 episodes all together. And I obviously hadn't seen what her take was going to be on the performance, but I'd read the scripts, and so I knew of the character. And I'd had it in my mind a certain way. And when I saw what she was doing, I was like, oh, this is gonna be very cool. I was just really excited. I was in awe of what she was able to create and what she was able to do. And then when I saw what Didi was doing as well, I was like, oh my God! So everyone on this show is just so we got a squad of killers is what we've got. And then you just hope that you're not, you're just hoping you're not the weak link. Like, oh my God, everyone's really good. Let's try not to fall too far under the bar. But that was the most exciting that was watching. It was in the table read because it was the most shocked I'd been. At that point going forward, I knew that we had, we had a strong cast, and we had a very strong creative team behind the screen as well. And so I knew we had something. I knew we had the potential for something special. I knew it was there. I just knew now it was on us not to screw it up.
Dude, as a viewer, I would forget that Colin Farrell is a person and Oz Cobb is not. When you're standing, was there something he would do that would be like he flipped the switch to get in character and you could feel it? Was there a clear line between Colin and Oz when you're acting opposite him?
He'd dive in and out sometimes when we weren't shooting. When we were on camera, he would stay in it, and some days he would stay in it a little longer. But when we were off, he was chatting like himself, and then you'd find it was really in the physicality. I would see him start moving a certain way and be like, yeah, he's getting into the zone right now, getting into his thing. And so that was real cool. Just kind of, he would always do a certain thing with his body to kind of get into the mode. And even I was using things as well, because I was like, all right, that's pretty cool. And I was doing little things to maybe seem a little younger, a little more innocent or whatever. And so it was exciting getting to watch him work for sure. He's incredible and really kind and genuine and giving person, Colin.
I love that. So this isn't your first time in the superhero space, but it's obviously a very fundamentally different project from Runaways. As an actor, what is the experience like of having Victor have no comic backstory to go off of versus a character like Alex who does have his own established history?
Yeah, there's a bit more freedom in it. There's a bit more freedom in creating. Not that I felt constricted anytime I've done something that's got a kind of created story already, but I felt this sort of it was just so much more. I had to do so. I guess you have to do a little bit more even to try and. There is no story to base it on. You got to go make it yourself, And so I definitely wrote a lot more for this one and kind of created a lot more in my mind about what had happened before we meet him, and even on the scenes in between you seeing him and the next time you see him, kind of what happened in between those scenes. Just to sort of have some sort of grounding to make it feel more real to me. That's really all it is, just so that when I say it, it feels like I mean it. And I can believe myself when I say it. So it's a bit more of creative liberty, and also a bit more it's a little bit more work to do, but it's all fun.
And then kind of going off of that, if Victor and Alex magically met in person across the multiverse, how do you think they would react to each other?
Oh man. I mean, Alex has got a real strong moral code. He thinks what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And Victor is much more easily manipulated. But Victor also comes from a different world. They come from entirely different backgrounds. Victor grew up in what would be project housing living, and Alex grew up in a mansion. And so I think that Alex maybe not understanding why someone would do something like what Victor does. It's like, okay, well, you don't understand the needs, the necessity sometimes, the idea of stealing a loaf of bread because your family's starving. You know what I mean? That classic saying, sometimes you're put in situations where your needs outweigh your whatever moral compass you might have. You need something, so yeah, I'll steal the bread. My family's starving. So I think they. I don't think they fundamentally understand each other. I think Alex would maybe judge him a bit, but Victor would carry on. I don't think Victor would give too much. You don't think he'd give too much.
All right, we got to wrap this up here. So these are our last few questions for you here, real quick. This is something I ask a lot of people, and sometimes it evokes a really fun story. You never know, and I always just take the shot with it. But I feel like there's stuff that goes on when you guys are working on these things, relationships, moments, whatever it is that you guys do, whether it's a cool prop that we don't even know about. But what is something about working on the Penguin that none of us interviewing you could even know to ask you about because we weren't there, but it's a fun story, whether it's with somebody, with something you experienced, anything that nobody knows to ask you about?
Oh, interesting. Man, there's a couple. Me and Colin have a couple inside jokes that happened because there was one. Oh man, it's such a long story. That'd be too long to tell. Let me think. What else?
Tell it.
There's this. I almost hurt Colin once. The very first couple weeks of shooting, I was driving the car and almost ran the poor guy over. I haven't told the story yet. But I didn't. We saved it in the end, and it almost crashed out the Maserati as well. It was a close call on Colin's legs and the Maserati saying bye-bye. And after that, I was very embarrassed and very upset at myself for almost letting it happen. I did end up saving the day, but I was also the one who put the day in danger. So it's like a null. It's like a it cancels itself out. He gave me grace. Everyone gave me grace, but I think he knew how much I was beating myself up for it. So we had a couple inside jokes going on, but that's a short version of the story. I almost took out Oz week 1.
Who hasn't almost hit somebody with a Maserati?
So what was the single most difficult scene to film outside of almost hitting him with the car? Like outside of that, what was the most difficult one?
The most difficult, like for me personally, like
Yeah.
the scene I was in. Oh man, there were a couple that I was nervous about for sure. I was nervous about the backstory for Victor, the death scene with the family, seeing that all happen. I was very nervous about that. That was difficult because, man, we had to shoot it so many times because it's so many different angles. It's like an action scene, and I don't know people who know how like a film set for the most part when there's action sequences, those take the longest time. You get so many different angles, so you can keep the cut, so you can keep the pace of the action up by cutting a lot. And so you need to do the scene a lot of times. And that scene's very emotional. And he's on the ground, and he's having a panic attack later in the episode, and he's crying, and he's thinking about his family. And that was an entire day of like music, sad music, and just crying the entire day. So that was brutal. And then we had to come back and do it again another day because we couldn't finish in time to get it all done because there was so many different things. So that one sucked. Also the squid scene, it's tough to put yourself there kind of mentally and get all the way there. Just the more emotional stuff I think is the toughest stuff. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining because I'm not, but it was scary going into it. It was like, are we gonna be able to do this? Am I gonna be able to pull this off? Am I gonna be able to actually feel the feelings I'm supposed to feel? You never really know if you're gonna get there. Thankfully, on those days, I felt something inside me stirring a bit, so we were able to capture it on camera. But you never really know if it's gonna come, so it's always pretty nerve-wracking.
Ah, man. Spoiler alert, you did it. You crushed it. It seems like it came out just as you intended. This is the last question for you, but first just want to say, man, there's so many people in the comment section just showing love for you. RIP Vic, as you said, but Victor was too good. Like we got Saul says, thank you for representing us Dominicans. We wish you nothing but continued success. People just complimenting one of the best scenes in DC history. People want to see you play Miles Morales. That's a few people commenting, saying they want to see you as Miles. That could be cool. So yeah, I mean, I'll just kind of end it on that sort of note. When did it really start to set in? Like is it when you go out to New York Comic Con? Is it when you open social media? Is it when you're walking around New York or LA or wherever you're at in the world, and people start to like, when does it start to set in that the work you guys are doing is paying off? People are loving it. Like, does the inbox look different? Like, when did it really hit you that the Penguin was great?
It's when I'm out and about, like in real life. That's when I feel it, because I think super fans will find you online and they'll say really nice things, and that's awesome and it feels great. I think that when I feel the difference is when I walk down the street and every 10 people are like, oh, yo, are you the guy? No, you're not that guy. And so just feeling it going out to like a bar or something, and then, people recognizing you and stopping you. It's like, wow, people are really watching. That's when you get a sense that a lot of people are watching the show. Drinks all of a sudden are pretty free. And so that's when you feel like, oh, people like it. They didn't like it. So I think it's just when you're out and about where you feel the love from the people, and I definitely feel it online because the especially after this last episode, it's been kind of crazy in the inbox. People just kind of showing their love and support, and so if anyone watching this video has been sending something, I appreciate it. I can't respond to them all, of course, but I do see them and I do appreciate it, and it is real nice that you guys are enjoying the show so much and saying such nice things.
Oh man, I'm happy for you, dude. I will say you should have got on the damn bus, but But here we are. Congratulations, Rhenzy, man. The show was phenomenal. Your work in it was incredible. And, dude, thank you so much for hanging with us on Phase Hero today.
No, thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right, brother. Well, you can close out your browser and dip out of here. It'll take you off the broadcast. Jenna and I are going to hang and talk for a moment. But thank you sincerely for joining us.
All right. I appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
All right, man. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Wow, that was great. And that show
was so much fun.
The show was damn amazing. Rhenzy was terrific. Oh, look at this double box we got here. I like this. This is the first time we've used this angle. I like this quite a bit. It's very ESPN here.
I was about to say, yeah.
That was awesome. Did you have any big takeaways from that interview that are standing out to you?
Knowing he almost hit Colin Farrell with his car is kind of a delightful anecdote. Yeah, just hearing just the process of working on the show and having the recognition of like, this could be something special. Like, we all know it as the audience, but it's interesting to kind of get that perspective of it. And like, especially once we get to the Emmy contention and stuff like that, knowing that in the back of my mind is going to be very cool.
This show's going to clean up at the Emmys. Come on. Like, this show is going to crush at the Emmys. I did find I know we started the show really digging into the death scene, but it was cool to hear about. Like, it was cool to hear about that 20 times they had filmed that over and over. But yeah, so, it's interesting. So for some reason, when this is twice now, we've had a guest and StreamYard decides to not show me the comment section. But so I have to open the YouTube thing in a separate tab. So I was trying to get to as many as I could, which only ended up being a few. But maybe it's because when we schedule it, it's private. I don't know. But we have over 200 people still watching live right now. Thank you so much to everybody who's watching. Please subscribe to the channel. Please follow FaZe Hero on social media. Follow Jenna on her YouTube channel at Go Read Some Comics and all that. But I feel like, that's our show. If you guys have feedback on that, please leave it in the form of a 5-star review on the podcast platforms. And we have Brad Winderbaum, head of Marvel's TV animation streaming, very important guy from Marvel Studios, on Wednesday afternoon after our just kind of catch-up show where we're going to talk about a bunch of trailers. So that's really exciting. Please don't miss that. Jenna, any last words for today's FaZe Hero episode?
You already plugged my YouTube channel, so thank you for that. And it's at Hey It's Jenna on social media. So yeah.
Wait, but you didn't say the thing.
And go read some comics.
All right, y'all. That's our show. Thank you so much to Rhenzy for joining. Thanks to his team who helped us put this together, and everybody who is watching FaZe Hero, and all my Penguin breakdowns on the channel too. You guys, like, those take me a long time to put together, and I sort of set out 2 months ago and said, no matter how busy I am over these next 2 months, every Sunday I want to have a Penguin video ready to go. And I'm glad I met that goal, and I'm glad this Sunday's is, unsurprisingly, because of the episode, probably not because of me, but it's the most watched one I've put out yet, and that makes me feel like it's all worthwhile, and then that gets to culminate in having Rhenzy on the show. Come on, I'm grateful for that. So thank you, everybody, for the love and support, and we will see you on Wednesday for more FaZe Hero. Oh, wait. Oh, no, I did it again. I forgot to tee up the outro. See you.